to the Geeking Poetic podcast channel.
On this channel, we have shows and segments that contain adult humor,
bad language, dirty jokes,
and other stuff that is strictly for mature audiences only.
So if you're too young or too sensitive for this kind of material, then please do not watch our channel or our videos.
This channel is not for you.
Thanks much.
And now, on with the show! About to fall over.
And welcome everybody to Geeking Poetic channel. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. My super soldier, stealthy partner over here next to me is none other than
Megan Guess.
And we're here to talk about what today?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4. I'll get the name of it down by the time we get done with this.
Yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've been doing this, 4 episodes now. It's been just growing in intensity, man. Holy shit.
That might be an understatement.
This episode by far is the most intense of them all. This one was called The Whole World is Watching, I think.
It sure is.
And the whole world was watching, especially by the end of the episode, because some major stuff goes down in this episode. Yeah, we should probably obviously let people know that while we're not going to do a complete scene-by-scene recap like other shows do, we're just going to talk about our pros and cons and impressions and some theories and stuff like that. But we are going to give away spoilers. There's going to be plenty of spoilers in this. So if you haven't watched the episode, or if you haven't watched the series, then what the hell are you doing here? Why are you even looking or listening to us right now?
Because they like spoilers just like you do.
Well, but okay, but if you want spoilers, then, hey.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, because, I am a total spoiler freak.
Spoiler sport.
Yeah, I am a spoiler sport, okay? I'm too impatient. I need to know what I'm walking into here. Speaking of walking into, man, I mean, one of the coolest things about this episode was, in my opinion, the way the episode started, which was we got to see a cool flashback of Wakanda.
Yeah.
And that was really cool because, as we saw in the last episode, it ended with Bucky running into Ayo, one of the Dora Milaje, or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something
that sounds
like
about
that.
right.
One of the Wakandan soldiers who was there to get Zemo, because of course Zemo was the one that was responsible for killing King T'Chaka.
Mm-hmm. Bad move, dude. Bad move.
Yeah, so now you have an entire nation, a very powerful, vicious, strong nation that just wants you dead, Zemo. You thought you had to worry about just the UN and Bucky and like that's the least of your worries, because the Wakandans will tear you apart. And so they're there to get Zemo and bring him back because they're not happy that Bucky let him loose.
They don't understand at all. They don't care if it's a means to an end.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to them.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that they don't understand. I think they just don't care. Right. They're like, yeah, we get what you're trying to do, Buck, but
don't care.
Yeah, exactly. But they do give him 8 hours to try and use him as as Bucky needs to get more leads on where the Flag Smashers are and everything. We got a really, really cool flashback of Wakanda. We got to see the whole process, or at least the end process of deprogramming Bucky. And the fact that Ayo and Shuri, he mentioned Shuri, which was really cool. I was hoping we were going to get to see Shuri, but
it's not over yet.
That's true. That's a good point.
Don't be impatient.
Yeah, well, I think we already established that I am. But so we find out that Ayo and Shuri were responsible for deprogramming Bucky from his 11 trigger words or whatever it is. And that was a really cool scene. Yeah. I loved that. I loved to see how emotional that Bucky was.
Yeah, that was cool and weird all at the same time.
It was.
See Bucky emotional and crying.
Yeah, because he's always so just stony, you know. No, it was
kinda cool.
It was great. Yeah, cuz I mean Bucky's one of my favorite characters in the Marvel universe, and I love that we're getting more depth out of him now. It ends up leading to basically they end up taking Zemo and using him to try and suss out where the Flag Smashers are. They know that they've got the funeral coming up for Mama Danya and everything. So they need Zemo because he gets it. He knows the area, and he's man, I mentioned this a couple episodes ago and everything, but I hate the fact that I hated Zemo so much. I hated him so much in Civil War. I didn't just hate him because he was a bad guy. I just didn't like the character. And I didn't care for the way he was written, anything. Man, they have completely changed that. Just when you couldn't get any stupider, you go and completely redeem yourself. You know? Seriously, I think he's like one of the best things about the series now.
I keep waiting for him to kind of turn on them, but he hasn't yet.
Well,
I mean, he's got his own motives and stuff like that, but
yeah,
because I thought for sure when he talked to that little girl, he's like, now those are the bad guys. This is our little secret. And
right.
stuff like that. I thought he wasn't going to say anything at all to them when this funeral is going to happen.
Right.
I mean, obviously he's playing a long game. It's coming.
I do. Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that scene up because I thought that was weird too, because it was like, it felt like he was building up to something and like those kids were going to help, like, you know, maybe they were going to do something to like get people to attack Bucky and Sam, and then he'd be able to get away. Zemo could get away.
He's had so many opportunities to get away, and he keeps coming back.
Well, because he's got his own game he's playing.
He's using them as much as they're using him.
Right, but I also think, and I could be wrong, I'd be interested to know if other people sussed it out the same way I did. I kind of feel like, because he was playing the whole thing of like, oh yeah, no, don't know anything, and then Sam was talking about his feelings about the whole situation. He was talking about how he kind of understands where the Flag Smashers are coming from. He was talking about how he disagrees with this whole global, the GRC or whatever it is, and what they're doing or what they're not doing.
How they're doing it.
And how they're doing it. And, you know, I think Sam was showing himself to be an exemplary, good, right-minded person. You know, right meaning correctly, aimed in his views, person and stuff. And I didn't know if that sort of then made
Changed him?
Yeah, made Zemo kind of go, okay, all right, I'll help them, because I think he was getting the impression that like Sam was like, on the right track, you know what I mean? Like Zemo was very skeptical, obviously. Zemo's whole thing is that he doesn't believe people should have that kind of power.
Right.
That it corrupts them, that it's always ends up being something that gets used for means that end up hurting and oppressing other people. And he's even said that I was cool to hear him admit in this episode when he was going on and on about that, and Sam was like, yeah, except Steve Rogers. And Zemo was like, touche. He wasn't even going to say, oh, no, I'm sure he was corrupt too. No, Zemo knew. He was like, no, yeah, he was that exception, man, But I think that there's a part of Zemo that sees that Sam is not, he's not like these others. He's not John Walker, that's for damn sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Let's just get into the John Walker thing. We're just gonna jump right into it.
What an ass.
Oh my God.
I hate him so incredibly much.
Well, I mean, I think that's the idea
He's
at this point.
He's doing such a good job playing that character, man.
Yeah, he really is. They cast him well because, I mean, look, even we did it, and I know it's not the right thing to do, but I think they cast it that way knowing how people are. I mean, before the man ever uttered a word, when we just saw him in that scene at the end of episode 1 waving, everybody literally was like, fuck that guy. Like, we didn't even, he could have been the most decent guy on the planet.
Didn't matter.
But,
We don't want him.
But we just looked at him and went, fucking screw that dude. No way. And I think they knew that was going to happen. I think they completely cast him.
They made him purposely come out and make his face look like that because he doesn't look like that now to me.
No, they
purposely
they made the mask
made
and the
him extra
costume look
goofy.
bad.
Yeah.
And make it look like he's ill-fitted in it because he is in every way ill-fitted to be the Cap. And I mean, holy mackerel, in this episode, we finally get to see, we get to see a little bit more depth to him as well, which is interesting because we find out that even though he is a thrice, Medal of Honor recipient for things he did in Afghanistan, we also, without any details, we get to hear a little bit about how he kind of admits, like, look,
What we have to do to get those medals.
yeah, the things that we did to get those medals weren't exactly, they're probably not the kind of things that a lot of, peace-minded people out there would sit there and agree with and say, oh yeah, that was totally above board and the right civil thing to do. Some of the things they did probably for the government back in those days, might have been a little bit questionable. Maybe things that didn't completely, go in accordance with like Geneva Convention, Anyway, the point is that we kind of learned that he's got a darkness to him. And he's got a lot of anger. He's got a lot of insecurity.
Oh yeah.
And a chip the size of Mount Rushmore, right? On his shoulder. So, I mean, and then, because then what ends up happening in this episode is at one point when they track down Karli and she's got the rest of the super soldier serums that she intends to give to more people on her side and everything, Zemo stops her, almost kills her.
Definitely trying.
Yeah, he definitely tries to kill her. I don't blame him. Zemo destroys, or so he thinks, all of the super soldier serums that are left.
Before he gets attacked.
Right, before he gets attacked and runs off and everything. Or actually, he gets clocked in the head.
He's knocked out.
It was pretty funny, actually, I have to admit. He got a shield to the face, man,
Yes,
and
he
ow.
did.
Yeah, he was. I love that he was nursing the old ice pack a few minutes later. It was like, yeah, that had to hurt. But in any case, what ended up happening was behind everybody's back, old Captain Walker ends up finding the last remaining serum, and what does he do?
He walkers away with it.
He does. He Walker Texas Rangers away with it. And, we see him kind of going through some what-if situations,
Like,
talking.
do I, don't I, do I, don't I?
Right, with Lamar, and Lamar kind of, unfortunately, bolsters Walker's resolve that, hey man, you're a good guy and you're a decorated soldier and I believe in you, kind of thing.
How much good could we have saved?
Yeah, how much
if
good,
we had that before?
Right. Yeah, exactly. What could we have accomplished had we both been super soldiers or something back when we were in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
The problem is this. It's the fact that you get the impression from the second episode when we first got to see Lamar, we first got to know John Walker and everything, is that he believes in John and he's kind of like John's rock or his anchor or whatever. And I think he's the one that keeps John grounded. And unfortunately, while Lamar's intentions are good, I don't think he really understands who John Walker is, and he doesn't really get all the inside turmoil and issues and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
He believes so much in his buddy that he kind of is blind to all the negative aspects of John Walker and everything, and doesn't really understand what this all means, because I mentioned to you before, and I didn't mention it on the show before, but the theme of, I feel like, has been the theme of this whole series is the idea of, if you get power, does that power define who you are? Does it make you who you are? Or does that power just...
Bring out who you are.
Yes. Does it just amplify things about you? You know, so, and that goes all the way back to what Erskine, or whatever his name was, the scientist in the first Captain America movie, said, and it's why they picked Steve Rogers, is because they saw he was such a good person who was doing things for all the right reasons. This isn't going to change you, hopefully, at least in theory. This isn't going to change you. It's just going to amplify all the good in you. But somebody who's bad, whether it's John Walker, whether it's Karli Morgenthau, whether it's the Red Skull, if you have these negative things in you, and if your reason for wanting that power is because you have negative goals, this is just going to amplify that and make it worse.
Right.
And they really defined that more, you know, clearly in this episode and stuff, because what ends up happening is old Cap ends up taking the super soldier serum, and it doesn't go well.
Jesus.
It
This
doesn't.
dude, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Karli, in her rage, and because she's a stupid asshole that doesn't even understand what she's dealing with either,
Right.
with this super soldier serum, she's got this self-righteous mindset of what she thinks this is going to achieve, and she's not being honest with herself or anybody else about the reality of it all. She ends up, I guess accidentally, you're kind of led to believe like she didn't mean to kill him, although she's killed other fucking people already, but she kills Lamar by throwing him up against a like a cement
Pillar, yeah.
pillar.
That was a bad move.
That was a really bad move, because now our super soldier serum jacked up version of Captain John Walker has no rock. He has no anchor at all. And he, in plain view of all the townspeople,
The entire world is watching.
yeah, he basically beats one of the flag smashers to death with his shield.
That's not cool.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, I get why you thought it was cool.
I'm not saying I thought it was cool, but yeah. What do you think?
I don't care that he killed the dude.
Okay.
Okay, he could have beat the crap out of him and killed him. Okay, I get that. He's a terrorist, all that stuff. I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Okay. I don't like he did it with a shield.
Well,
He could have done it with his fist because he's superpowered now.
yeah.
He didn't need to do it with the shield.
Well, look.
That's the symbol everybody's holding on to, and look what you just did with it. You dumbass.
Right. And he is a dumbass, and I am not a fan of John Walker by any means. However, he obviously had to stop them. It probably would have been more beneficial had he not killed the dude and just beat him to a pulp, you know what I mean? And
then took him back.
taking him hostage,
Questioned
yeah,
him and-
taking him, yeah, exactly, taking him into
Deprogrammed him.
custody. I don't know if there's any deprogramming going on, but he could have at least maybe gotten some like negotiating leverage or something like with Karli. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. However, the thing that I just think was interesting about it, and why I think it's interesting that happened, is earlier in this episode, when Sam is trying to, and it seems like he's almost making some headway with Karli, trying to talk some sense into her and make her realize, like, you can call yourself a, resistance
whatever you want.
fighter, all these other things, but you're murdering people that are technically innocent, and you're saying, well, it's for my cause, and then I'm going to take these serums and make more soldiers to fight so we can be more violent and more, and it's like, and then even her comment when she said, oh, I don't care about killing those people and I'd gladly do it again. Well, okay. And then she's the same one that told her compadre at the end of the last episode when she blew up that building, when she said violence is the only thing they understand. So I got to kill people. It's the only way to get the point across. Well, then in a sense, can't you kind of say that I'm not saying it's right. I don't agree with that mentality, but isn't that essentially then the same thing that is happening with Walker killing one of them? I mean, and that's the point. It's like, I don't feel bad for the Flag Smashers because it's like,
You
well,
get what you get.
right, you begat this. You caused this. You brought this.
Yeah, this is not the answer.
The blood of that dead guy, that Flag Smasher guy, who was practically almost pleading for his life and everything, you know, and you kind of feel bad for him, but his blood is, in my opinion, just as much on Karli Morgenthau's fucking hands as it is on John Walker's hands. Because she is the one that set that into motion. And that's why this is like, you know, she killed those people. Now they're coming after her. Then she kills
It just
Lamar.
keeps going
Now
and
we're going to
going
kill
and
your guys.
going.
And it's
Why?
exactly. And where is this going to go? And it's, yeah. And meanwhile, at the heart of it all is we're just hoping that Sam
Can come through in the end.
is going to come around and understand that, like, you know, your whole thing of like, well, you know, I don't deserve the shield, and you know, we should do away with symbols and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you might think that's the right thing to do, but what the world needs is they need proper, good leadership. Not John Walker.
No.
Not a terrorist group called the Flag Smashers.
No.
You know, not some corrupt government, whatever type agency like the global GRC,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
GRC,
yeah, exactly,
GMC.
GMC, yeah, they're giving out vitamins, you know, and but yeah, no, you know, none of those. We need somebody who is truly good, like Sam,
And can see both sides.
exactly,
We needed
exactly,
somebody that could work both sides so we can have peace.
exactly. Now, I just want to bring up real quick one more thing, which is the lingering question.
Who is...
The power broker. Yeah.
I have a theory.
Yeah, well, you kind of mentioned a theory in the last episode, and we talked about it. You kind of mentioned it offhand, and I got, if it's the same theory, I gotta admit, I think you're right.
Yeah?
Yeah, what is it?
I'm thinking Sharon Carter. Carter's the
Yeah.
power broker.
It really seems that way.
She can do an awful lot for somebody in hiding.
I was just gonna say
It's like,
that.
I think I have satellites. How do you have satellites?
Right. I thought you were like hiding out.
Right? You're having to sell art.
Yeah.
What?
I thought the whole thing was that she was just
She's
kind of
awfully
like,
connected.
yeah, exactly.
Not to be the power broker, or at least in cahoots with the power broker.
Right.
Like, the power broker's really pissed.
Right.
You killed the golden goose.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Right?
You know, like you seem
Like,
awfully
word
connected.
just spreads.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I get word spreads, but come on.
Yeah,
She's the power broker.
I think you might be right. I mean, we could be wrong. You know, God knows that MCU.
WandaVision, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk
all
about that again.
Right. I mean, again, we're not.
That's where I'm leaning towards. We'll go
Right.
that
Yeah,
way.
we're not trying to tell anybody. Like, we don't have any insight. Like anybody, you know, we don't know.
Yeah.
We're just having fun guessing and everything. But from the way it's looking, yeah, I'm like, okay, there's way more going on with Sharon Carter than I think we're being led to believe initially and stuff. Yeah. You know, poor Sharon who's been, you know, ostracized by her government and cannot come back home and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not buying it.
No.
She's got a lot of power.
Yeah. A little too much.
Yeah. And so who knows? Who knows where they're going with that? Maybe they're going to make Sharon kind of this like bad guy or not even a bad guy, but sort of like a pseudo kind of walking that line kind of person.
I think she might be a good one for Sam because she seems to be one, again, walking the line. She can see this side. She can see this side. She's in the middle there.
Right.
But she has to be in hiding
right.
to do it.
Well, here's the other thing we don't know also. We don't know, you know, because we go by things that happen in the comic books, like the power broker existed in the comics, but we've already seen enough diversion from characters, you know, the MCU's doing its own thing. We don't know who the power broker might his or her own self be in cahoots with. You know, how do we know that the power broker isn't doing something in cahoots with the American government?
That's true.
You know, because why does the power broker want those super soldier serums? Why was he developing those super soldier serums? Who knows? But here's another theory that I had, because in the last episode we did of this, I was talking about how I was curious if Zemo was the one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the actions of this episode kind of made me think, oh, well, maybe not. Because why would he go and destroy all those serums if he was the one developing? Why wouldn't he have just stolen them? You know what I mean? If he was the power broker. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that, I mean, that could be a red herring too.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting theory that I have, and I know other people have mentioned stuff like this online, and I don't know. I just don't know whether or not this could be it or not, but I think it's interesting that we're seeing this whole thing about super soldier serums coming back into the picture again. You know, one thing we've learned with Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that they don't usually do stuff just to do it. There's very few throwaway things.
It always comes back.
Which was why I'm trying not to let certain things that happened, like at the end of WandaVision, get me too, you know, uptight, because I do think that certain loose ends could come back later and be tidied up and stuff like that. That's what they tend to do. They've introduced the whole super soldier serum thing, and they've brought back, of all people, they've brought back Zemo. Now, on the surface, it might seem like, well, they brought back Zemo because he was so against the idea of super soldiers to begin with, and because of his connection with Bucky and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I think there might be more reason why Zemo is back and everything.
Oh,
yeah? Yes. Now, here's the thing. We all know that one of the antagonists in the MCU has been Thunderbolt Ross, the asshole high general guy that's always giving Cap and the rest of the Avengers a tough time and telling them, arrest them and all that. Yeah, fuck you and all this stuff, because that's how he is. And we also know from back, if you go all the way back to the Hulk movie, that he's not beyond messing around with things like gamma radiation and super soldier serums and stuff to create his own sort of, you know, monster or weapon or whatever the fuck he wants to do. What if Thunderbolt Ross is, you know, covertly, maybe with or without the permission of the rest of the government or something like that, working with an underworld boss like the Power Broker?
Oh, yeah?
Maybe working in cahoots with the Power Broker, saying, develop me some super soldier serum so that we can make more super soldiers. Because you got to believe that the government, they can't really just be looking at John Walker, who up until this point has just been some
They're
dude.
going to put their all eggs in the basket for him.
Right, for some dude that doesn't even have superpowers, really can't, you know, he's nothing but a symbol. He's essentially the same thing Captain America was at first,
beginning.
before Cap actually started fighting, and they just needed a symbol. You know, I believe that the government, especially somebody like Ross, is going to have in mind the idea of, like, we have to have our own superheroes that are going to actually listen to us and that are going to actually work for us and all this stuff.
That's a dangerous gamble.
Well, there's precedent for it, though.
Okay.
So here's the thing. So, you know, Thunderbolt Ross, I mean, in the Marvel Comics universe, there is a team that was introduced in the mid to late 90s that was called the Thunderbolts. And the Thunderbolts came into play as being this new superhero team with these all new superheroes nobody had heard of before. And it was during a time when a bunch of America's heroes had kind of disappeared. It was very blip-like. This whole, I can't explain all that, look it up. It's Heroes Reborn.
All night.
Yeah, Heroes Reborn, I think I was 96, Heroes Return, etc. In that interim, then, they introduced this team of superheroes. And at first, they seemed really badass, and they seemed very good, and they were working, you know, with the government and all this stuff. And then what we come to find out is that the Thunderbolts team, that these superheroes were actually a bunch of superpowered villains in disguise, like known villains or vigilantes at the very least in disguise. Nobody knew that. And guess who the main leader of the Thunderbolts team was. Guess what villain it was?
Zemo?
Baron Zemo.
Really?
Yup.
Interesting.
Right. So, are we leading up to a Baron Zemo and the Thunderbolts team kind of thing? Like,
Interesting.
you know, could it be doing that? Like, could he be the power broker? Could he be setting up this whole thing? Could he be trying to do this thing where he's going to make his own super-powered team? Now, again, you might sit there and say, well, that seems counterproductive because he hates super-powered heroes and everything. It's like, okay, but you can't beat him unless you join him.
That's true.
If he's like, you know, super against the Avengers, like, I need to make my own Avengers, but I'm going to have my own underhanded, nefarious plans, you know, and, you know, I'm not going to be able to get far getting into government stuff and getting all, you know, all this kind of stuff being a villain. So maybe I have to become a hero. And so who knows?
Oh, man.
Who knows?
Or he's not the power broker. Sharon is, but he's got his own angle he's working.
Right.
But then why destroy it?
Or what if he's the power broker, but Sharon doesn't know he's the power broker? And Sharon is working for him, working with
Thinking
him, thinking he's like, okay, and maybe like working in cahoots with the government. Maybe she's part of this whole thing. Nobody can find out where that scientist guy is
Right?
that was creating the serum.
But within an
and
hour,
within
she's
an
got it.
hour at a party, oh, I found the guy. It's like, oh, yeah. Or did you just always know where he was to begin with?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. I don't know. I definitely think there's more to Zemo and Sharon than what we're seeing. If one or neither of them is the power broker, that's entirely possible, but I definitely think there's something else there. It's not just what we're seeing on the surface.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Zemo gets away, and you're led to believe that, you know, the Wakandans are going to be in pursuit of him and everything. And we know that there's a series coming on DisneyPlus. It's going to center around like the Wakandans and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, is that the end of Zemo for now?
It could be. It could be. Yeah, we might not see any more of Zemo until
Till the end.
that series
Yeah.
happens, you know.
Interesting.
You know, this might have just been a means of setting that up. In which case, maybe he isn't the power broker. Who knows?
We don't know.
We don't know anything. It's just fun to talk about this stuff, you know, and we'd love to know what you think of all of this. Do you think any of this seems plausible? Do you have completely other ideas about what this all means? You know, let us know in the comments. Please come join us. We have a group on Facebook called the Geeking Squad. Not Geeking Squad, like Geeking Poetic. Anybody can join, just don't be a dickwad, and we're happy to have you in there, and we talk about comics and toys and sci-fi and funny
conspiracies.
memes. Yeah. Well, you know,
All the geeky stuff.
like geeky conspiracies,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah.
The fun ones.
The fun, yeah, exactly.
Not the crazy ones.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the crazy ones because they're fun.
Yeah,
but-
sometimes. But in any case, we invite you to come over there. We will be back. There's only a couple more episodes of this left, apparently.
That's
and
crazy.
There's a lot yet to get into. I mean, wow. This episode was a mind blower in a lot of ways. So I can only imagine what's coming in episode 5. But we will be there to talk to you about it.
With bells on.
With bells on. Yeah, exactly. See you then, everybody. Take care.
Bye.